My name's Conor, and I was born in London and my brother was born there too. I was born to two lesbian women, Anne and Bernadette, and they've been my parents for the last 24 years. About 15 years ago, we moved from London to Ireland, to a small town called Clane in County Kildare. I grew up there, and since then I've been in Dublin as well. And when we talk about the experiences of being the children of lesbian and gay parents, I think one of the things that we do is we tend to emphasize the negatives, because that's what's at the moment really important. And Iris touched on that in her outline of the report. The issues of the institutionalized and policy-based homophobia and discrimination, and the challenges, sorry, oh, I'm quite nervous, the challenges of framing children of lesbian and gay families in a legal context will, I think, be addressed later on, and we'll have a wonderful European perspective on it as well, and we'll be able to see how we can actually get things done and how we can move on. But I think it's extremely important to note, however, that the positive experiences that came out of this report, and the amount that people were able to say, look, living in an LGBT family is pretty much the same as living in you know, a normal family. My thing is, everyone asks me, oh, what's it like living in a different family? There's no such thing as a different family. Every single family is different. And I think people need to sort of recognize that, and then also legislate for that. Without doubt, having lesbian and gay parents, or a lesbian or gay parent, has made us, the participants of the group, who we are today. And the themes of support, protection, solidarity, and being wanted, they all ran true in this research. And it was incredible to see that. I've found it really interesting examining and learning more and more about our family throughout the last couple of years, because we've been doing this. Dara and I have been doing this for about 3 or 4 years, talking a lot in the media and talking to a lot of different people about it. And we've found a lot about our family in that time, just sort of sitting down and thinking about it and discovering and discussing it with our family. And I think the more I look into it, the scarier it kind of got, because we realized how little protection there was for our family, and how much luck we'd had to get through essentially what now is 24 years of life without having too many problems. And the challenges that we could have faced would have been quite extraordinary. And I think what's specifically important to note is that we got to 18, and 18 seems to be one of the milestones. Once you get to that point, it's plain sailing, because you're no longer a child, you're an adult. But ultimately, what that inspection led me to do was to think more and more about how my parents have protected and supported me throughout my entire life. I think one of the things they definitely did was they kind of sheltered me from homophobia a little bit, until I was able to sort of be mature enough to stand up and say, okay, well, I understand what your issue is now, and I am able to deal with that in a mature manner. When I was in school in London, I had a friend, and he was my best friend at the time, and it was interesting, because we spent a lot of time together, both in school and outside of school, and I'd go over to his house a lot. And a couple of years ago, we were talking about this, and my parents pointed out, well, you never actually went to, or he never went to our house. And I was sort of like, well, why does he never go to our house? And they said, well, it's because you had lesbian parents. And I thought, that's ridiculous. I mean, he wasn't able to come to my house because of the sexuality of my parents, but I was able to go to his house. So clearly, and this is a good point to note, homosexuality isn't contagious through kids, just through adults. So it's, you know, if you're thinking about kids yourself, that's something to learn. Thank you very much. It's a really weird logic, and in that case, I think it was based on religious homophobia, and I think that is becoming less and less prevalent, and people are basing their opinions less on what they're told and more on what they've experienced. And I think reports like this go a long way to show that kids of LGBT families are pretty normal. But looking back, I didn't know about it at all. They sheltered me from it, and they protected me from that. I was too young to understand, definitely too young to understand the logic behind it. Well, the lack of logic behind it and the reasons behind it. But now, looking back, it's pretty shocking, really. So that's one way in which they acted to protect me. Based on that, I sort of started thinking, God, I wonder what else they've done. And So then, again, back to school. Back here in County Kildare, I had the choice of which secondary school to go to. And for some strange reason, my parents left this up to me. Obviously, by that stage, I was mature enough to choose what school I was going to, or so they assumed. I had the choice between a local school, which is where all my friends were going. And it was a small enough school, it was a Catholic school. And a further away school, which was, in their opinion, a better school and probably better suited for me. And of course I chose the local one because that's where all my friends were going. When you're that age, you don't think, oh, what's best for later on in life? You think, where are my mates going? And looking back on it, you think, lesbian parents born in London, don't go to the small Catholic school. It's a terrible idea. But hindsight is 20/20, you know. You look back and you think, oh, probably not the best place for me to go. But, you know, I didn't really enjoy myself there. I was a quiet kid and I had a British accent. It's not the best for me. So I just switched schools. And then, funnily enough, I still got a bit of bullying in the new school. But it was never, this is probably the point at which you ask, well, what did they say about your mums? I have never experienced bullying about my parents. I've never once had someone turn around and say, hey, you're that weirdo with the lesbian parents. It's always been, hey, you're that guy from London. And you've got an accent. And I vaguely remember some kind of history where we don't like the English. And I was, at this stage, I was in a private Protestant school. And you sort of turn around to them and you say, do you see that big portrait of Prince Charles II? He was from England too, and he founded this school. So it's that kind of, that illogical idea. And I think people, opponents of, as Iris mentioned, opponents of lesbian and gay parenting, and the idea of lesbian and gays having children, they scream, think of the children, think of the children. I mean, that's a Simpsons quote in case you didn't get it. Fergus Finlay, I think, pointed this out as well. Kids get bullied over the stupidest things. And to be honest, I think, for me, I think the kids just didn't really understand or focus on the lesbian parents because it's a more difficult issue than you're from Britain. If you're going to choose between the two, I know, I'd pick the English thing. It's a much easier thing to pick on. A few years ago, I was talking in an adoption, gay and lesbian parent adoption debate in UCD. It was a very small debate, but a friend of mine was standing up there, and he was obviously on my side. And he was making this point, and he said, kids pick on whatever is easy. My surname is Pigeon. Think of how much fun they had with that. You can't stop people from having kids just because there is a potential for bullying. You should stop people from having kids if they're not going to raise effective families. But I mean, we've seen that time and time again in the research. Lesbian and gay people make perfectly good parents, make really good parents. So there you go. Protection and support, that's what my family provided for me. And it's something as well that came a lot from the lesbian and gay community in Ireland. Specifically, when we moved from London to Dublin, my mum Byrne, she joined Gloria, Ireland's gay and lesbian choir. And what they've done is they've provided incredible support for us and also excellent role models. I think role models are one of the things that people go, ooh, you know, where do you get your male role models from? My parents have always been very particular about, thank you very much, very particular about providing us with both male and female role models. So Gloria was able to provide that. And I think that's an important thing to note, and it's something that Chris is going to expand on and talk about support and protection.
Yeah. Thanks, Conor. As Conor said, my name's Christine, but everybody can call me Chris or Chrissy. It's easier. I'd like to say another quick thanks to Marriage Equality for all their fantastic support and for actually making this report and giving us the chance to have our voices be heard. Being the child of a lesbian mother, and with the current issues and everything that's been going on in the past year, there's been a lot of focus on, as being brought up already, the negatives of that. Well, I'm going to explain here how there is no real negatives other than the prejudice that people seem to force on ourselves. Through this report, I've had a great chance to like, it's really helped me to take a step back and look at my family and see who I've came from and the amazing supports that were put in place for me without me even knowing they'd been put in place. Having come from a straight family originally and progressed into a gay one, I've learned how one family is compared to the other. I have the added bonus of being able to turn around and say there is actually, well, I've thought there was no difference between having a dad and a mum and between having a mum and a mum. But there is, but it's not the difference people think. I used to tell people there was no difference. I had the mum-dad combo and now I have a mum-mum combo. But the more I looked at it, the more I realised that that wasn't true. My family isn't the same. Oh, sorry, I'm nervous in you. No. I'm making up words. Nervouser doesn't exist. Now I've lost my place. That's great. As I said, my family isn't the same. It's, for one, become ridiculously large. Okay, I didn't grow up in a gay family. I grew up in the gay community. I have more lesbian aunties than can fit in this room. I know more organisations and more fantastic people who strive to fight for our rights, even before I knew that my rights weren't even being heard or being looked at. So as growing up in the gay community, that in itself has been one of the largest and strongest supports that I had. It's only in the past year that I've really realised this. When during the research I was asked what support I had to help cope and come to terms with my new family, I was a bit stumped. I was convinced I didn't have any. Sure, why would I need any supports? I had a fantastic family, a great group of friends from secondary school who didn't care that my mum was gay. All they seen was that I had a loving mum who, quite frankly, they all loved more than I think I did at the time. Angsty teenager and all. You know, my friends from secondary school pretty much became another family for me. So I was lucky in that I didn't have to deal with the prejudices of being in a Catholic school, because before anybody could say anything, I had a group of young ones jumping down their throat for me. So it was great. Every summer I spent in women's camp with other children from lesbian families, which I can't say now how amazing that was growing up. I'm going to get teary and everything. Because realising now that not everybody had that opportunity. Not everybody had 2 weeks of their year, 2 weeks of their summer, where it didn't matter that your man was gay, that didn't come into point, because you were just sitting there with your family. And that's all you were. It was a space where you could all be just your family. There was no sexual orientation, there was just me getting kids to beat the crap out of Lolly. And you know, and just us having fun and being ourselves without having to think about what our parents were, because to us they were just parents. Over the years I've worked for many gay and lesbian organisations, from Dublin Pride to the Lesbian Arts Festival. My mum would always introduce me to loads of lovely people like Michael Bannon from Belong To, who, even though that's a LGBT community for gay kids, they seem to have fostered the children of gay people as well, until we can, you know, get off our arses and do something about it. That's how my mum protected us without even realising it. Instead of shielding us from homophobia, she taught us that this is what it is, this is what it does, and this is how you can change it, and these are the people and the support you have to change it. So, like, by protecting us, she brought us into the community. She let us make friends and learn how different families and people in Ireland are. And when we were comfortable and settled in this community, in our newfound family, that's when we found out she was gay. Only then did we were already part of it. We were already in the gay community when Mum came around and said, "Oh yeah, this is my girlfriend." I'm like, all right, that doesn't, you know, it's not really a shock when you've spent 2 weeks selling Pride party tickets in Outhouse. So I had it easier being the child of a lesbian than a lot of people, a lot of children have, because I was always taught how to, where my supports were. There's a lot of children in Ireland who have gay and lesbian parents who don't know this. So this is why this report is so important to me, and why it is so important that the voices of children get heard. I'm going to pass back to Conor because I'm getting a bit throaty.
Should we go straight to B, or?
Do the coming out thing. Do the coming out thing.
Okay. I'll just...
I'm stealing your water.
Oh, that's all right. I'll just briefly talk again, and then I suppose we'll go back to Chris for a second. The idea of coming out is one that I never really thought of framing it like that until probably yesterday or Monday when we were talking about it. And coming out for us, I suppose, is telling people the fact that our parents are lesbian or gay. And the question that people sort of in newspapers and radio often ask is, well, what's it like having lesbian parents? And it's the most frustrating question, because it's only people in the media who ask that question. Kids don't ask that question. They go, oh wow, that's cool. But my response to people when they ask that question is, well, don't ask me. I don't really know any differently. They're just my family. It's exactly what's regular for me. And I was talking about school, and sort of for me there was a change in how I told people. And when I first came back from London, we were in a small school, and Dara and I just sort of told people, and it never really was an issue because we were all kids, and no one really understood it. And then I moved into a bigger setting, so I didn't really tell people until I got to know them. And some people may be like, well, why did you hide that from them? And for me, it's like, well, it's my family. You don't tell people that that you have a father who has a broken leg at the moment because he fell down the stairs. The first time you meet them, you get to know them a bit first. And it's the same with us. Having a different family is just something that happens to you, and you live with it, you love them, and then you tell people in your own pace. And it's a lot easier now, I suppose, because people, now that I'm 24, people just sort of shrug it off and go, oh, that's interesting, but not that interesting. Again, apart from people in the media. I think there's this fascination with it, and I think what comes out of this is that we're just normal families, and that all we need to be treated like is normal families, and given the protection of normal families, and stop saying the word normal. It's such a silly word, it doesn't even make sense. And I think, but what helps with coming out is recognizing that all families are different, and that our families just happen to be different in this way. And I think that's one thing that what would help kids to do that is providing information and support, and knowing that there are other kids like us out there. And I think that's one of the reasons why, on the basis of this research, we've sort of begun to form a group called Belong to Believe. Whoops, I know, called Believe in Equality. And Chris is going to talk a bit more about that.
I'm loving this tag team.
Yeah.
It's great. Believe in Equality is the organisation we've started ourselves, or are starting at the moment. We're going to refer to it as B from now on, because Believe in Equality is a mouthful. It's like trying to say LGBT 10 times fast. The group was formed by the young people from the Voices of Children. It's a group for children of LGBT parents who would like to have the same recognition for their rights, or for their families, as straight families, and aims to provide a supporting and social network for children and young people of LGBT families throughout Ireland. As I said, when we agreed to do the report, I don't think any member of B really knew what they were getting themselves into. All of a sudden we had this opportunity to do something amazing. We've been given a chance to make sure our voices were heard. With the Civil Partnership Bill coming out, there's a lot of things in the media questioning whether or not gay people could make good parents. And what about the children? It's kind of Simpsons again. With no one actually asking the children themselves. Now, here's the thing. LGBT parents already do make great parents and have been doing it for a long time. Lost my place again. These children have finally been given the chance to let policymakers hear what we thought. We all sat in a room telling other children from gay families about our experiences growing up, how we and our families dealt with everyday life and the hardships we faced. There was an overwhelming sense of solidarity in the group. Everyone's experiences were different, and yet we still bonded over a simple fact. Our families, in essence, were the same. Not all of us had met so many from LGBT families, and got to thinking just how amazing it would be for other children and young people to be able to get together and share their experiences and support each other. Believe in Equality had its goals. Not only will we affect how the government views our families, we would also be able to affect young people out there already suffering because of policymakers' ignorance. Believe in Equality is still only starting out, and we're kind of ironing out the kinks of our little fledgling group. But we've already received so much support from the likes of Marriage Equality, Belong To. The fact that you're here in the room is also a fantastic support that I don't think last year in November we would have even thought was possible. So hopefully in a few years' time, B won't be necessary. It will have run its course and it helped redefine the social norms in Ireland. Hopefully there will be a time in Ireland where a child is not judged by the sexuality of the parent and where a loving, caring home is the norm, and all children and their families will be protected by law. So let's finish that. But if anybody would like to be involved with B, or knows anybody else who would like to get involved, feel free to come and have a chat with me and Conor. There's several other members of the crew floating around, or you can email us at believeinequality@gmail.com.